Anyway, weird, wild stuff. Let's go.
Not least, is perhaps the most absurd of them all. The fifth reason that he gives for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam is the fact that the Bible's been changed and the Quran hasn't. But you're probably wondering to yourself right now, why would that be the most absurd of all of his claims, since that's a claim that Muslims often make? Well, it's not the ignorance of the claim that makes it the most interesting, but instead it's the way that he argues for it. So the context here in this clip that I'm about to play is that Sneako is having a debate with Gideon on Islam and Christianity, and Sneako is coming across as if he literally doesn't know any of the basics of the Bible.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know. There's been so many different.
He clicks on it says this is why I said he doesn't even know what the book of Matthew is, right? He says Matt, he doesn't know that's an abbreviation. Matt is an abbreviation for Matthew, and he's saying Matt verse 39. So he doesn't know that there are chapters. He doesn't know what he doesn't know that this is. Yeah, he doesn't know that this is the Gospel of Matthew. He doesn't know that there are chapters. He just says Matt verse 39. And he doesn't. It's Matthew chapter 5 verse 39. He doesn't know any of that. So this is he's claiming, I was this Catholic. He doesn't even know the Gospel of Matthew. He doesn't know what that is. He doesn't know that. He doesn't even know the name of it, let alone the contents. But he doesn't know the name of the book. And he's talking about how he saw these problems with Catholicism. He doesn't know the basics of the basics.
Yeah.
Let's see that again.
Cross as if he literally doesn't know any of the basics of the Bible.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know.
It's right there.
There's been so many different. There's so many different. There's so many different versions of the Bible, bro.
What other versions of the Bible are there? Sneako?
There's so many, bro.
Okay, tell me some.
Okay, let's look up.
What versions of the Bible are there?
We have the King James Version, the English Standard Version, the New American Standard, the New English Bible.
You know the funny thing about all those different versions, Sneako?
What?
They're all just different translations, buddy.
But it gets worse.
Most people haven't read the original version. Have you heard of the Council of Nicaea? There's been a lot of chapters that have been removed, and the Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Everybody knows that about the Bible.
The Council of Nicaea was removed from the Bible, and it sucks because it was my favorite. It was my favorite book, man. The Council of Nicaea. But when I'm getting down, I just like to read the Council of Nicaea in my Bible. But then someone took out the Council of Nicaea from my Bible.
Why did they remove it, man?
Hey, AP, you're familiar with this, right? Like if someone says I was a former Muslim, they want to give you like a test of how much of the Quran you've memorized. They want to give all of these tests on how faithful and devout you are. They want pictures. If you're a woman, they want pictures of you in full burqa and say, show us the evidence, blah, blah, blah. And here you can have someone who does not know the most fundamental basics. It's just, I saw a picture of Jesus in a painting once, so that's why I reject Christianity. But someone who thinks that the Council of Nicaea was a book in the Bible, and they'll parade him. You say, hey, look, the devout Catholic left Christianity.
He knew Christianity was bunk, right? This guy knew the Bible was BS.
It's powerful knowledge.
You brought it up the other day when Adadawa was having his debate with me. He was trying to test me on. He said, so every surah begins with with Bismillah, right? And I was like, no. I said, except Surah Tawbah. And he was like, okay. And he moved on. So he wanted to test me there just to see if I'm going to make the mistake of saying yes or not. I didn't make the mistake. I really pointed out that Toba doesn't have it. So he just moved on. But even that, if I did say yes to him, he would have made a huge show off it.
That would still be a video that would have 2 million views. Yeah. Apostate prophet exposed as fake ex-Muslim. All because if you didn't know that bit of Quran trivia, right? Yeah. And that's amazing. You remember, because we talked about it. We talked about during a live stream when hijab was saying why people shouldn't listen to Ayan Hirsi Ali. He said she used an incorrect hadith reference at one point. And since she used an incorrect hadith reference, therefore you shouldn't accept her as an ex-Muslim. No one should listen to her. Someone, it's like, dude, you make the Dawa guys make mistakes and blunders constantly. It never crosses their mind. Therefore, you should never listen to them. Yeah. I mean, we went through an entire video of Ali Dawa claiming to debunk Christianity. He got nothing right in the entire video. And we go through his claims about Islam, and he gets nothing right. And we're all supposed to still like fall at his feet. And yet they're looking for any mistake anyone else can make, and it's enough to dismiss him as an ex-Muslim. And yet their guy here cannot know anything about the Bible. And you see, he's a devout ex-Christian. This is the proof that Islam is true. All right.
Council of Nicaea. What are you saying? There's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
No, it's not a book, but there was a council that removed parts of the Bible. Not a whole book, but it's.
Look, now we got dueling Sneakos, right? You got dueling Sneakos because that was the new Sneako. That was the update Sneako who knows, correcting the dumb Sneako from a couple days earlier or whatever. Let me go back a little. See this. We want to get this all.
Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Yeah, I haven't.
Council of Nicaea. What are you saying? There's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
No, it's not a book, but there was a council that removed parts of the Bible. Not a whole book, but it's.
Yeah, look at
he's saying it as he's Googling it. Yeah.
Yeah. The original video, he's saying it's not a whole book, so it's part of a book. But then him on the other side, he's saying it's not a book, it's a council. Now that's the corrected version because we have two Sneakos on the screen.
Sneako destroys Sneako.
Sneako refutes Sneako.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as you just heard, Sneako rejects the credibility.
Bro, what type of Abba and Preach Christian channel is this, man? Are you?
He just said the Council of Nicaea is a book or part of a book that was removed from the Bible. John posts that, and then he freaks out. Isn't this interesting? It's like AP. If you made a blunder like that about the Quran and Muslims pointed it out, would they have a problem pointing out that you have no clue what you're talking about?
Not at all. They would be talking about it for years.
Yeah, if you said, the book of Ahmed Didat was removed from the Bible, was removed from the Quran, and they go, what? This is the biggest idiot we've ever. You can never take this person seriously again. He's so stupid. And they wouldn't be saying, oh, you're taking that out of context.
They even do like one example. There is a video which goes around, which is going around, that is where Ali Dawa told me to recite the shortest surah, Surah Kawthar, and I said I'm not reciting anything. They just took that part. He published it first as a short video with the title "Ex-Muslim doesn't know shortest Quran chapter," which is not even true. Like I'm saying I'm not reciting anything, and it is, you know.
Haven't you recited that during live streams before?
I have.
I recall that. Yeah,
I have. I mean, that's a prayer that everybody.
You're just
knows.
saying you're just saying I'm not. You're just saying I'm not going down this road with you because no, anything you do, he's just gonna keep giving you requirements and so on. So you just said we're not going down this road. Yeah.
I know exactly what he was doing, so I said I'm not reciting anything, and he just took that and entitled it
"Shocker.
Ex-Muslim doesn't know." And made a short video out of it, and now it has like 2 million views.
Yeah,
and
that's how they do it.
And I keep seeing this brought up by Muslims over and over again. Oh, aren't you the one who can't even recite the shortest surah? No, but that's what they do.
So here's another thing: if Sneako has a problem with people taking things out of context, we could actually prove those things. And I bet you anything, he probably wouldn't address it publicly. He wouldn't say that this is a problem in Islamic, and he probably wouldn't even question the fact that they could actually be lying to him, since they're lying with a lot of this kind of stuff too. That's what's so bad about it. But I mean, I understand it's human nature to some degree when you get pot committed into something. You know what I mean? It's harder for you to weasel out, especially since he made so public about this and he's been talking about it so much. Then it makes it harder for him to be like, oh, actually, that was stupid, especially knowing that that's a death sentence for him if he becomes an apostate. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So anyways, he has some problems there. But.
And you've got these guys who are, telling him stuff. And I saw, I think it was a comment on our live stream from last night. Someone said something along the lines of, the most shocking thing to me is not that these Dawa guys feel totally comfortable lying to people. It's more that the people feel totally comfortable being lied to. Like, even when you expose, hey, you have been lied to. Like, what they just told you is a complete lie. What you just heard is a complete lie. They just don't care. They just move on like it's nothing. And I've seen that over and over again. You can take a follower of Ali Dawa, Muhammad Hijab, can show them where they've been lied to by their Dawa hero. It doesn't bother them even slightly. It is very, I don't know, it's very interesting stuff. Let's see what we got here.
Do you see the selective editing here?
No.
I went and explained exactly what the Council of Nicaea was in that debate, and he completely clips it out because there's silence. And then to his viewers, he's like, whoa.
Did he or did he not claim that the Council of Nicaea is a book of the Bible? Yes. Yeah. You point. Oh, my goodness, man.
And here's the thing that's funny. He says, I went on to explain it, and he cut that out. He doesn't realize I actually go on to his explanation and respond to that in like 10 seconds. All right. So that's kind of funny.
Let's see. Let's see John selectively editing everything and ripping everything out of context.
He was quiet for 3 seconds. Debunked? Silence doesn't mean debunked. That means that we're figuring things out and having a combo. What the fuck?
Ability of the Bible in favor of Islam.
What the fuck is this?
Oh my goodness.
Because they removed the book of the council.
Shameful language from Islam. Anyway,
he says figuring out. What he means is he was Googling it and just trying to read whatever he sees there, and he was even reading that wrong.
And notice he's stating these things as fact, and then when a dude says there's no book of then he's Googling it. It's like, oh, just figuring it out. Yeah, which means you had no clue what you're talking about when you're talking about stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Bible. Now, for anyone who knows literally anything about church history, they know that the Council of Nicaea is not a book, but instead it's a council.
That's a good reaction.
People also tend to know that the Gospel of Matthew is a book in the Bible. They don't think it's Matt. Oh, it's from Matt. It's Matt. Matt verse 39.
Now, ordinarily, it wouldn't be a big deal that he's ignorant on Christianity and Islam since he's a new convert, but that's not the point. The point is, this is a problem since the reasons that he converted are based on the ignorance of Islam and Christianity. So after taking a second to Google the Council of Nicaea, Sneako says this.
There's no book of... What?
There was a council called the Council of Nicaea that manipulated the original Bible.
All right, pause right there for a second, because what's so insane about this is that even on his screen, on the front page of his Google search, it says there is no historical basis for the idea that Nicaea established the canon and created the Bible. It's
established the canon.
Yeah.
The Council of Nicaea had nothing to do with the canon of Scripture. It's not what it was about. And I'm saying this because he's about to, no. Oh, I didn't say they created the Bible. It's like, dude, it said they had nothing to do with establishing the canon, which means they had nothing to do with selecting the books of the Bible. The canon is the collection of books. Right?
I don't think he knows what the canon is. Probably.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I was thinking that.
So it's literally on the screen that the Council of Nicaea was not about establishing the canon, and he's going to go on and say, "I didn't say they created the Bible." Anyway, let's see what he says.
Right there.
I didn't say that the Council of Nicaea created. I never said that. I said they changed it.
On his screen.
I said they changed it and removed stuff from the Bible, which means they did what? They're establishing the canon of Scripture, which is what it said on your Google search said did not happen. This is a guy who doesn't understand basic words that he's reading. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do.
Wild stuff.
Hold on. Here we go. Matt verse 39. People are still laughing about Matt verse 39. All right. Matt verse 39. All right, let's go.
And it's highlighted. And this means that not only is he not reading the screen, but it also means that he didn't even take the time to do a 2-second Google search.
Wait, he is reading the screen. He doesn't know what words mean, right? He doesn't know what words mean. Yeah, canon is the authority. Canon is canon is authority. But used in context of that, it's the list of authoritative books. And the Council of Nicaea had nothing to do with that. Guys, you can lay this down as a rule. Anytime, because people they appeal to people's ignorance, right? If they know people don't know what they're talking about, they can say whatever they want. When someone starts talking to you and they start talking about, oh, the books that were removed from the Bible and blah, 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 Council of Nicaea, you've just spotted either a liar or a moron, right? It's one or the other, because it had nothing to do with it. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see what he's got.
On the Council of Nicaea before deciding that this was his reason for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam. So now when it comes to his...
Bro, this dude is fucking disingenuous as fuck.
Yeah, he's the one.
When did I ever say that the Council of Nicaea created the Bible?
Point about the Bible being changed.
He doesn't understand. He doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it.
He doesn't.
Yeah, because I think he's being genuine here too. Because I think he literally just doesn't understand like what the words was that he saw.
That's the thing. Can you blame this guy for being so completely oblivious, to these very simple facts? Can you blame this guy for not knowing at all what he's talking about, but then trying to at least participate in the conversation and trying to make a point? And I mean, can you blame him for not being smart enough to even understand what he's talking about? It's just it is very, I mean, it's very paradoxical, right? I mean,
what's even really funny is he's like, oh, he's taking me out of context. He's saying created the Bible when I said change the Bible, and that's my next point here in like 2 seconds.
yeah, but I mean, think about that. It's still actually on the screen. He doesn't know what the words mean on the screen, and it's like, how do you have a conversation with someone who doesn't understand words? Right? You don't understand basic. Now, it's a situation maybe he doesn't understand like what the canon of scripture is and so on. But the point is, he's attacking you as being disingenuous.
Yeah.
When it literally said on the screen in words that he doesn't understand that he's wrong, right? So he's saying, Ed, the Council of Nicaea, they took stuff out of the Bible, meaning they established the canon. And then it says on the screen, didn't establish the canon, not the Council of Nicaea, nothing to do with that. And then you're the one who's being disingenuous because he doesn't know what the words mean.
Yeah,
this is awesome. This is
Dawa, man. I feel bad. I feel like we are bullying a little child right now. That's what it feels like.
It does. I mean, guys, it's. But what do you do when they put this guy forward? I'm getting messages. You're, now what are you going to do? That Sneako has converted. This is the proof. All right, but here's John's.
I want to say, Sneako, if you are going to review our review of your review of the video, we don't hate you. I don't hate you. We're not making fun of you. We don't have any problem with you. I don't have any problem with you at all. I think you are very entertaining.
Yeah, I kind of like him. I kind of like him.
Yeah, but this is just not it. This is not your stuff.
Yeah, that's
and that's the point too, because like the point of my video, I'm not trying to do it to make fun of him. Like it's more so to point out that these are the reasons he said he converted, and these reasons literally have nothing. They're based on 100% ignorance. So that's the point that's being trying to make. It's not to attack, just to say that he's whatever. I think he's just wrong, and so it's kind of funny. You know what I mean? But it's not to make fun of him.
Yeah, guys, this isn't about piling on and so on. It's I mean, if someone says these are my reasons for leaving Christianity and my reasons for embracing Islam, if you know that all those reasons are false, should you point it out? Well, there are two main reasons you could point it out. One, if you're actually thinking, oh, this person has been misled by his own ignorance and by being deceived by others, you would want to help that person. And so notice John's being very friendly. Sneako, you don't know what you're talking about here. All of the reasons you're giving actually backfire. It's pretty straightforward. So there's that. But then notice, even if Sneako is totally stubborn and he's dug in and he wants to cling to Islam, he's still talking to a lot of viewers. Some of those viewers, probably most of those viewers know more than him. Like probably most of his viewers would know that Matthew was a book or that the Council of Nicaea was a council. But there will be a subset of people who don't know anything about Christianity or Islam. And he's saying, these are the powerful reasons. We don't want those people to be misled just because Sneako is clueless. So we respond. Yes. So, I don't know what else to do when people are spouting nonsense other than correcting it. All right, let's see where he's going.
Council of Nicaea. Honestly, I feel bad for him. He's likely just repeating Muslim slogans about this, not realizing that this actually comes from a Dan Brown novel and not actual history. If anyone decides to go look up the actual history, then Like Sneako, it would only take you really 2 seconds to learn that the Council of Nicaea literally had nothing to do with determining what books went into the Bible and what books didn't. In fact, the council wasn't even about the books of the Bible. Instead, it was about the Arian heresy. So honestly, I think that Sneako was misled here by some Muslim apologists who either knew or should have known better. But again,
Wrong. I was in my Catholic church and I saw them take out the Council of Nicaea.
be charitable because I'm a charitable
In a painting with God as a old white man in the clouds taking out the Council of Nicaea from the Bible. I saw it.
guy, and I'm feeling really charitable today. So let's say that Sneako is right that they actually did remove books from the Bible at the council.
What hypothetical? You see, he's agreeing they took out books of the Bible. I don't know what to do, man. I can't get through 5 seconds without seeing how deranged all of this is. Okay, let's go.
Of Nicaea. Well, the problem with that claim is that we literally have tens of thousands of quotes from church fathers citing the scriptures long before, and we have dozens of manuscripts from before the Council of Nicaea.
So which version of the Bible is he talking about? There's one.
This from the guy who thinks that English Standard, because it's called English Standard Version or something like that, you're talking about different Bibles. Let's go ahead and see what he says here, and then we'll do a little experiment.
Quran. There's one Quran. It's lasted 1,400
He obviously didn't watch my video.
years. He said that he doesn't even agree with Catholics. They haven't, bro. All Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different.
All Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different. Wow, guys, he just don't say we misrepresented him or took him out of context. Maybe you could say he's exaggerating or something like that. But all Christians have different Bibles and so on.
And he said the original Bible earlier too. Remember, he keeps saying, "Yeah, the original Bible's not like the Bibles today." Like, what original Bible?
Yeah, what in the world is he talking about?
It's a conspiracy. Oh, well, they didn't want you to know, but there's an original Bible. Then how would he know, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense in my mind.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I'm trying to figure out what to respond to, but I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what he's actually claiming that's not absurd, but it's because he has no idea what he's talking about. So guys, I asked both of you right before we were about to start. I said, bring a Bible. We'll do a little experiment, right? Take whatever Bible you got, and then you can tell us what version it is. And I've got a few here, so I can use a different version of the Bible. But go to John chapter 1, just because, I mean, you could kind of pick anything, but we'll go with John chapter 1 here. What are you using, John?
So John verse 24. What verse?
John verse 24.
No, Joe.
What Bible version do you have, John?
I have this one is NIV, I believe.
That's an NIV. So John's got an NIV. What do you have, AP?
I have an NKJV.
New King James. New King James Version. Okay, I will use I've got an NASB and I've got a New Revised Standard Version. I'm going to stick with the New Revised Standard Version because it includes the word version. So you know.
Then I will switch to NASB.
So you know it's different.
What?
Then I will switch.
Open them both, AP, because we can get all these different versions, so we can see all of these different teachings in these different Bibles.
Okay.
We want
So
all
I have
the different Bibles.
the New King James Version, and the New American Standard Bible.
Okay, you open those to John 1. You open to John 1, John?
Yeah. Yep.
Just read. Let's see. Probably read a couple verses just so we can see how radically different they are. Go ahead and read. Let's read the first.
We could do 18, 118. That might be a good one.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we can use 118 as an example of a translation difference. But read the first. Read the first 5 verses of the Gospel of John.
Okay. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is a good one too. Going against his earlier arguments. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
All right. Now that was what version? The New International Version?
That's right.
Okay, so now I'm going to quote the New Revised Standard Version, a different version. John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. So that's a completely different Bible version from what John is using. AP, you've got two Bible versions there. Why don't you tell us what those say so we could get the completely different message of these Bible versions?
Yeah, this is, of course, a completely different Bible that is completely, hugely different here. This is the New American Standard Bible, I think. Yes, it is. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. This is what the New American Standard Bible says. And this is what the New King James Version says. Let me see this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. This is what this one says.
Guys, these are all any you Muslims who are watching, these are all different Bible versions. They're different translations. They're worded slightly differently, but it's kind of all the same thing. If you're saying those are different and they've all got these different Bibles, okay, well, I mean, my goodness, I've actually got more versions of the Quran than I have of the Bible here. I've got more versions of the Quran than I've got of the Bible here. What would you say? But you're just translating the same Greek. Yeah, these are translations of the same Greek Gospel of John. How? I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I'm sure, because I was trying to think of his argument. Like, I think what he thinks is that the different versions come from different manuscripts or something like that, rather than
different books. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're different versions of the same thing because language changes. Like, that's why the King James Version is way different than the New American Standard Version. You know what I mean? And so I think it's that fact that he just doesn't understand that that's what these versions are. I think in his head, he thinks, they're different manuscripts for all of them. I think that's what he's thinking.
I thought of just one point, which is he did mention Catholics and Protestants having different Bibles. And there is only this one point where the Catholic Bible, correct me if I'm wrong, has a different, slightly different canon in that it includes several books which are not included in the general Protestant Bibles. But that's it. It's not different in content of the specific books. It just has different books which are part of that canon. That's it.
Yeah, that's just as a quick. In fact, since this is such a common, misunderstanding of Muslims, it's probably worth making videos about the canon. So, guys, Catholics and Protestants, 27 books of the New Testament. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, and so on. They're the same. We have the same New Testament canon. Now, here's where the difference of the canon of the Old Testament is concerned. You had two basic approaches, and you had them before anyone was thinking in terms of Catholic and Protestant. You had this from the early stages of Christianity. You had two basic lines of thinking here. One line of thinking was, since the Apostle Paul talks about the Jewish people being given the oracles of God, one line of thinking was that when Christians who have the New Testament, when Christians are thinking about the Old Testament, since the Jews were entrusted with the oracles of God, you should go with the Jewish canon of Scripture when you're talking about the Old Testament. So the Jews know what they're talking about when it comes to the Old Testament. And so you have people who would go with the standard Jewish canon of the Old Testament when you're talking about the Old Testament. There was another line of thought, which is, because keep in mind, the Jews didn't just have the Old Testament as far as books. That was, they had their canon, but they had additional books. The early Christians in their churches start citing some of these books because some of them were included in the Septuagint, the Greek edition of the Old Testament. That included some books that were Greek that we call apocryphal. So even though these aren't the official canon, they're still sometimes included. And the early church, some churches use those. So the two competing lines of thought were, what is regarded in mainstream Judaism as the official canon? We should stick with that as the Old Testament canon. The other line of thinking was, what are churches using and quoting? Because then it has a kind of authority from the church if churches are using it and recognizing these scriptures. But they were also using books that we call, Protestants would call apocryphal. Catholics would consider them deuterocanonical, meaning second canon. So the question is, what are the contents of the Old Testament? And if you go in one direction, you say, this is the canon according to the Jews, and we want to stick with that. Or you have, this is the Old Testament canon according to certain books that churches are using, and we'll recognize that. And so that, again, that's before that. Those two lines of thinking were there before Catholic and Protestants were having these disagreements. It later ended up with Protestants, for the most part, going in one direction and Catholics going in the other direction in terms of accepting what are called the deuterocanonical books. So that's the breakdown in a nutshell. Again, New Testament, totally the same. Books of the Old Testament, the same. There are some additions, and then there are in a Catholic Bible, there are the additional deuterocanonical books. So you don't have a different New Testament. You have some extra material, depending on your perspective. You have either some extra material in the Old Testament or some missing material in the Old Testament. That doesn't affect the New Testament. So there's a disagreement. Now, here's the thing, because we could make separate videos on this. Suppose you regard that as a problem. Some Christians have had a disagreement about some of the contents of the Old Testament. If you think that's a problem, multiple things going on here. One, Muhammad's own followers disagreed about what's supposed to be in the Quran. Abdullah ibn Masud thought there was supposed to be 111 chapters. Ubay ibn Ka'b said there's supposed to be 116. The Quran that Zayd and Uthman settled on has 114. So Muslims had disagreements about the contents of the Quran. So if it's a problem for Islam. You should leave Islam. Will Sneako do that? Of course not. He will change his objection because that's what he keeps doing. In addition to that, so there are actually three separate problems here. So that's one problem. There were disagreements about the contents of the Quran. Two, the Quran also affirms the scriptures of the Jews and Christians, right? That's what the Christian dispute was about. It's, we agree on the New Testament. What about the contents of the Old Testament? If we were to say, what are the actual contents that are authoritative scripture? What's the list? And some Christians have disagreed about whether certain Old Testament books are part of the list. Well, guess what? Islam also affirms the scriptures of the Jews and the scriptures of the Christians. So if you ask Muslims, what is Allah actually affirming when he affirms the scriptures of the Jews and Christians, you're going to get different answers from Muslims. Muslims will give you different answers about what the actual contents that are being affirmed as scripture are. So if it's a problem for Christians to say, we have a disagreement about the contents of the Old Testament, if that's a problem for Christians, Muslims would tell you that they don't agree on the contents of the Old Testament. You could go to different Muslim scholars and they will give you a different explanation of what's being affirmed as the Old Testament in the Quran. So if that's a problem for Christians, it's also a problem for Islam. So you got the same problem. And then in addition to all of that, how do you know how to follow the Quran as a Muslim? You have to go to the Hadith, because certain things you can't even understand in the Quran without going to the Hadith. But guess what? Muslims disagree on which collections are authoritative. So if a disagreement about sources refutes your position, then great. Then Islam is false. You don't know how to follow Muhammad because they disagree. Oh, we follow Bukhari. Oh, we follow Al-Kafi. Okay, well then you disagree on how you know about Muhammad. And so, like, how can you say this is my reason for rejecting Christianity when, one, you don't even understand what the issue is. Two, you're not talking about tons of different Bibles here. You're talking about a disagreement of certain contents of the Old Testament. And then three, if you take that objection seriously, you've got a much bigger problem in Islam, because you've got the same thing in the Quran itself. You're not even talking about Christians looking back at the Old Testament. You're talking about Muhammad's companions not agreeing on what's in the Quran, which is their final revelation, and they still don't agree on it. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do when I don't know what to do.
He's like, yeah, there's chapters missing from the Bible, or that were taken out of the Bible. That's pretty hilarious. He's like,
yeah, what?
Yeah, big problem.
This is wild stuff, man. This is wild stuff. All right, should we continue? I think we should be getting to the end of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think so.